Trauma is any event, experience, or situation that really overwhelms our ability to cope and process what's happened to us. What's important to remember is that you could have experienced something traumatic, but not develop PTSD from it. It really depends on your perception. There are also really two different classifications of trauma. There's big T traumas, and then there's little t traumas. And when people think of trauma, they tend to think of really big things like abuse, for example, war, which is true. Those fall under the big T trauma category. But there's also a little t category. There is a little t category as well. But as far as the big T traumas, these are frightening, disturbing. Oftentimes they can be life-threatening. They can happen once or multiple times. And these can include sexual abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence, war, natural disasters, accidents, physical trauma, injuries, death, loss, mass shootings. It can be witnessing a trauma or watching somebody else go through that trauma and being subject to secondary or vicarious trauma. Now, there are also the little t traumas that people don't often think about when they think of the word trauma or I haven't been through anything traumatic in my life. And really, I just want to tell you that nobody gets out of life without experiencing some form of trauma. Now, these little t traumas, they can be prolonged, they can happen repeatedly, and oftentimes they're dismissed because people don't realize the impact that they've actually had. And so little t traumas can be abuse of an emotional kind, rejection, developmental trauma when they were kids, verbal abuse, neglect, divorce, betrayal, or maybe being cheated on, bullied, again, death or loss of a loved one, including a pet, chronic stress, feeling overwhelmed all the time, being bullied or harassed. I think I might have already said being bullied, but being bullied or harassed, experiencing a pandemic is a little t, as well as a big T. So it just depends on your perception. If we have a pandemic that's bubonic plague versus COVID-19, it's your perception of how that has affected you as far as which category that trauma will fall under. So there are some examples of big T and little t traumas and how they can affect you. And it's really just the perception of what you went through and how big that's going to be for you and how you cope with it.